Alright, so here we have the Alpha tier. I'm not going to cover Erlica Gamma. I don't think it belongs here. I think it should be bumped up. Low elite. But that being said, let's move on. So, let's look at Acro. Acro, bulky. When you boost it, you want to probably go like full speed. It's kind of like your classic Nitro Rex, except better because it's bulkier, has cleansing abilities. Same crit chance, a little bit less damage, but at that point, it's not really doing much. Alanqa, good speed, good bulk, long invincibility, pretty good move. Swap and invincibility, good move. Good output. Just a solid, fast, resilient, pretty good. Gen2, it's got more turn 1 than Acro. Faster, better resistances. Not a fan of rending takedown. That move really shouldn't be on like a chomper like this, because I could literally just swap and even Velociraptor on it and I will never die. It's just for something that has 1800 attack, just give it a rampage. It doesn't really make much of a difference unless you're like at a lower level disadvantage. Andrew, well, no escape. It's a really good rep. No escape. You boost the HP, speed, attack, all three of those. It does well when you boost all three stats, but got no escape, and it's got the classic 1-2. That usually just kills anything. It is a bit frail. That's its problem, but makes up for that for being fast and having that deceleration immunity. Andrewtherium, never been really the biggest fan, although it's a good setup creature. I feel like it requires a lot of setup to do what it wants to do. But saying that, it's still good. No escape, good resistances, decent moveset. Just, in my opinion, not the best. I prefer Andrewtodon here more. I like it. It's got okay bulk, but it's got the vulnerability counter, the one that doesn't do damage, but that I feel like pairs really well with the moveset, especially being slower. That allows it to actually like get that vulnerability, then hit it hard. And I really like that. The problem is that it's just not really bulky when it wants to be bulky. And it's also really slow. Arctalces, oh my gosh, I don't know how to pronounce these sometimes. But the Baryonyx, it's okay. I mean, it's not the most amazing thing out there. I mean, it's got the on escape is pretty cool. The one where it speeds up by like 50%. That one's pretty interesting. But in terms of the overall moves and like the stats are really bad. Poor attack, poor HP, poor speed. 15% armor is not bad. Decel immunity is also not bad. As well as the rend resistance sounds pretty good, but the defensive edge and dig in is okay. It's just got the impact and the strike to deal output. So I mean, it's not horrible, but and also again, this is a disclaimer: we do not have this creature at all. No one has this unless you've like got a beta tester hacked. And we have not had an opportunity to actually play this. So, that's just a disclaimer right now. We just felt like it belongs here in High Alpha. Baryonyx. I use this thing in the arena. It sucks against Forex and Scorpios Gen2, that's for sure. I always get swapped in on by that. But with the setup, this thing is a monster at taking down like Grippo, Dio, Testa. All three of those absolutely get demolished by Barry. I have mine at like 154 speed, 156, something like that. It's outspeeding a lot of Quetzarians, a lot of Forex in the library at least. It's outspeeding a lot of Erlica Spix. All those creatures are just getting outsped by my Baryonyx and hit hard. The problem is that it does need that setup. Also, group takedown is garbage. It needs ready to crush back. Because no one uses Baryonyx in raid. They just... If you're going to use Baryonyx, you might as well just use Irritator. So, give Baryonyx ready to crush, and it's gonna really do more. Brachy. Absolute wall. Good with vulnerability. It's a shame it can't have speed control anymore. But it's with the shields and the rampages, it's gonna take a lot of hits and deal a lot of damage. That's what you're doing with Brachiosaurus. Pin and stun resistance is pretty good. Decel immunity pretty good. You boost that thing to like what, 9,000, 10,000 HP, and that thing is gonna absolutely demolish things. Concavenator, another creature that I use. Mine's at like what, level 29, like 112 speed. Pretty good. It's a great lead creature. Good for flocks. If I could do an unboosted change to this thing right now, it would be give it like 150 extra health or like 2 more speed to not get 1-2'd by swapped in and killed by Rhino. But boosted, it's pretty good. It's got the shield, the counterattack. It's got good output. It could use a bit more than like the 25% vulnerability resistance, but it's a really good epic if you want to boost something. It's got great output, the impact, the strike, the shields. It's just a great lead, and it'll do a lot. Dilophoboa. I mean, it's okay. Sidestep is pretty good for it. And Rampage and the null impact, but I mean the counter's okay. It's just really frail. It needs that counter, but also the counter kind of defeats the purpose almost of the on escape in a way. But I mean it's not a bad creature, but I mean it's also not the best. It just requires that distraction to really keep it alive, and that means it has to get hit, which is kind of counter. Dracorex, bulky, got a pretty good swap and move, a lot of vulnerability. The vulnerability change actually really improved Dracorex more than probably most resilience in the game. Although maybe I would say it's like top 5 that got changed, because when that got improved, like along with Spinotasuchus. That's how good it was, that change, because now it's taking out like Andrew, it's taking out Ornith, it's taking out all these creatures that are originally just lost to. And you could just swap it in, hit it, something, and then if they can't cleanse that vulnerable, you hit them with an impact, dealing more vulnerability damage, and then you hit them with an instant charge, which is now basically an impact thanks to that vulnerability. So all this vulnerability really helps it. Dsungaia is okay. It was really good in the legendary tournament where flocks and everything were stupidly good, but that's really all it is. Outside of that, it's just It's not amazing, but it's not bad anymore either. I definitely underestimated it at first, but it still can definitely be improved. It's pretty frail. The group ferocity is mediocre. If it had ferocious strike, that would be such an improvement. But other than that, it's just an okay legendary. I'm not talking about Gamma. Gigaspike. I mean, I would say it's the worst Brachy. It's slower. It has more armor and stuff like that, but it just does not. It lacks output. Also, I think it's hold on. If I remember correctly, yeah, it's got that like counter. But again, it's got the counter, but again, it's not doing much. Short defense, not the best shielding move out there, I will say. If it had like group decelerating rampage, it would be pretty good, but it's just mediocre. It's just another mediocre legendary like Dilophoboa. Marsupial Lion. This was originally like one of the best rares in the game, easily. This is way before, and then Phlox killed it. Now the whole cunning takeover is really just killing it. Still got that 1-2, great for taking out tanks, but it still struggles with a lot of things. Distraction, rend resistant stuff. It can't do it. Also, now that Prowl, is like, alright, if you do priority move before Prowl, that really hurts it. But, I mean, it's still a pretty good rare. It needs a shift in the meta. Same with the Nazuto. If Fears are dominating the meta, Nazuto's way better than Dracorex, but right now we're cunning, so Dracorex takes out Nazuto for a better swapper. But Nazuto's still really good, really bulky. Distraction prolongs the bulk. One of the best resistances for a swapper, pin resist. Stunning Strike is not bad. Long decel Strike is pretty decent. Got the best swapping move in the game. Just a really, really good rare. And boosted now, like, the problem in the skill tournaments is that it couldn't take out a flock member on the swap. Like, Dracorex can take out one of Archaeopteryx's members, but now with the changes and everything like that, now with boosts involved, and you're obviously going to be boosting Nazuto's attack. Now it's probably easily going to take out like a compy on the swap. Alright, now let's look at Ornith. Ornith, one of my favorite rares. Ornith is fast, it hits hard. Evasive Strike, not the best move in the game, but it's got that Rampage and Run. It's good for taking out flocks, it's good for taking out a lot of stuff. Like, if I remember correctly, it can go pretty well against like 4X and those kinds of creatures. It's really, really good. Shields are gonna kill it, like Resilience are gonna kill it, but even still, it's got the good off me with instant distraction. Just a really good rare, and it's got good team synergy, and those immunities really also help it out. Let's go with Poukaidei. It's a really defensive cunning, but it doesn't really have much in the way of output. It's got decent HP, decent attack. It's got good attack, but it just lacks multipliers, and that's really, really bad. It's fast, that's pretty good. Stun resistant, pretty good. But, I mean, after, like, Fearless Flap, Distraction, that's really all it can do. It's not really special. It just lacks a lot of tools. It lacks the output. It's got good bulk, but that lack of output really kills it. Alright. Now, Vexus. Vexus, everyone's like, oh my gosh, yes, Vexus got Distracting Impact. Changed to Distracting Rampage. That's not good. That's bad. Vexus is pretty bad right now, because it only has null impact turn 1, and that's pretty bad, because it has it has no defensive options turn 1. Also, like, just regular swoop is kind of just outdated, especially on a unique. You gotta get Cleansing Swoop if you want to be swooping in and out, or you gotta get like Lethal Rampage and Run, but this thing is not able to deal to probably last that long like 4X is. It has the On Escape Evasive Strike, which is one of the better tools it has, but even then that's not entirely special, especially with that garbage output damage it has. So it's not bad. It's got a good resistance set, and it's pretty fast. But, I mean, it swaps in, it bleeds, and now it's stuck. It's got no way to get off the field. Like, Dimodactylus and Stegorex, they can just swap in, they can do their thing, and then swap out literally right after they swap in. That is a much better design than this. Pterovexus needs a lot of help. Because, like, well, do you want to swoop out, or do you want to use Distracting Rampage? That's kind of where the dilemma is. Just not a good creature. Rajakylo. You know what? Rajakylo could probably actually move up. It's not bad. It's pretty defensive. It's always about evasion with the precise piercing counter. The shields, it's got 3 different shielding moves. Resilient Strike, not bad. I mean, it's just really slow. No resistances. But it's pretty decent, I would say. I could see that moving up. It's a good tank. It's kind of like, but it still suffers kind of like the same problems that Theo does. It's just slow, no form of speed control, and that's kind of an issue. Spinotasuchus, this thing is really bad. Oh, this thing is not good at all. I remember when this thing was top tier, but now it's garbage. It's got garbage HP, pin resistance not bad. It's got swoop, which is okay, because unlike those other guys, this thing isn't swapping in, so it's not going to be trapped on the field. But it's just incredibly frail, especially for a bleeder. It's fast, which isn't bad, but it's got no output, incredibly frail. It's just not good. The critical impact, I think it is, that's his best damage dealing move. That's not good. That's it. That's pathetic. Strike, it's okay, but like swoop, you want to swoop when you're slower. Actually, in many scenarios, but Spinotasuchus can't do that because it's obviously probably dead. At least like Dimodactylus has a shield. To like, if it is slower, but Spinotasuchus, it's too frail to work, and that's a huge problem. Utasinoraptor. Again, pretty frail. The impacts are good for it. It does a decent amount of output with those impacts, and instant charge is good off me. But I mean, it's just not much anything special. It's not anything special. It's like 127 speed, which is okay. Instant charge is pretty good. The damage is okay, but it's good, but just not great. Like if you compare it to another cunning like Erlicogama, who has like beastly turn 1, beastly good it has good synergy. It's got good defensive tools. Like Sino has that, but it's just not as good as it could be. But definitely one of the better ones in the tier. Alright, now let's move on to low alpha. Low alpha. Ankylocodon. Slow, bulky, got good resistances and immunities, but I mean, it's just slow, doesn't have the output. The shield is okay, but it's just not as good as like take Rajakylo or what's another tank up here? Brachiosaurus. No, it just doesn't stack up to like Brachiosaurus, Rajakylo, even Gigaspike, I would say. It just lacks that output, but it's those resistances really do make up for it. Archaeopteryx. In order to rally heal, again, it depends on whether or not your opponent swaps or not, and so that's a problem. Also, stun, weak to it. It's weak to stuns. Also pretty frail for a flock, and in order to really get going, it needs to like get 3 turns down, so it has to impact, strike, and then get to cunning rampage, which is a huge issue for it. Other than that, though, it's a pretty good rare. The on escape is really beastly, but I mean, it's okay. Arctodus, again, no one has this, so this is right now what we think it is. I think it actually could probably go down, but that's just me. But it's okay. It's slow though. It's got that impact, which is pretty good, but and the strike is okay, but it's a decent rare. I think it might be bumped down another tier, but for now we're keeping it here. Dakotanops. Dakotanops is okay. The Revenge Cunning Rampage is useful. Precise Impact is okay. It's pretty. It's a cunning that wants to be really offensive, but it just does not have the offensive stats to do so. Distraction immunity is pretty good, but honestly, I would rather use just Dakotaraptor, which is next, because Dakotaraptor has some pretty beastly matchups. Like I know it can go toe to toe with 4X because it's got precise pounce and 4X can be distracted. It's just got to predict whether or not it's going to instant rampage with sidestep. Sidestep is pretty good, and well, oh my gosh, what about turn 4? Like when it uses pounce, rampage, pounce. Well, what raptor is living to turn 4? That's a ridiculous thing to say. So, no raptors living in turn 4. This is not, even in the raptor meta, most raptor, back all the way at the beginning of the game, most raptors were just swapped out to something else to save that raptor. Tyler right now. Good output. Good output. Good damage. The output's okay. But again, it suffers that same problem that all the healers suffers. That it tries to stay alive via the heals, and it just eventually just gets whittled down and dies. I will say though that it's also really held back by that speed. But other than that, it's not. It's a legendary that's just built for raids, like the Rinchus Iron raid. Just level it up to 20. Just use it for that. Don't level it beyond that, really. The dodos. The dodos. Again, I'm not a fan of alert decoy. Not the greatest move in my opinion for running. It's got decel immunity, which is good, but it's slow. It's only got the strike and protective alert and then alert decoy. So it's not really doing much other than losing flock members. So that's why it's here. The synergy is good, but like again, also it lacks like pin resistance, which is the same problem that Dodocevia has. No pin resistance is really bad. Dodic. I could see Dodic actually going up. I'll probably bring that up. In the rare tournament, this was one of the best creatures in the format. You could not swap in on this safely unless you were like Aniasuchus or Nasutoceratops. Other than that, you were asking to get 2-shot. Especially when you're swapping in on strike, because Perlith could swap in on the rampage, but not the strike. But it's got great bulk, amazing bulk with the shields and 50% armor. And 4,200 HP, and then boosted that, obviously, it's just going to go into attack and HP, so now that bulk is even bigger. Resilient Strike, pretty good. Decelerating Rampage, it's a good form of speed control, which is important for something slower like this, and even then, it's still not that slow. 111 speed, and then you're probably boosting it like a 1 or 2 boost. It's not the slowest thing in the world. But it's a good form of speed control to speed down those like faster creatures and take them out like the compies. Just a good rare. Edaphosaurus. Let's do Edaphosaurus and Secodonto right now. Secodonto, better in an overall environment. I'm gonna say it right now. But like a skill setting or whatever, an epic skill setting, Edaphosaurus rules out because of Titanoboa. Secodonto is slower and not as bulky, but Edapho is bulkier and 1 speed faster. Edapho does have PFS, one of the best strikes in the game, but it needs that in order to deal decent output. Whereas Secodonto has just raw output from the get-go. It actually has 50% more damage than Edaph, which is really good for it. So both of these are probably going to be fast. Edapho is probably going to be more bulky in boost build, while Secodonto is more of a powerhouse. So you're going to go speed and attack, maybe some HP, maybe sit around like 6,000, but both of them pretty good creatures. I feel like maybe Secodonto should probably be bumped up, but that's me. Aniasuchus. Aniasuchus is a good rare. The vulnerability helped and hurt it because now it has no form. It likes that you could make something vulnerable and swap in on it more often with the resilience. But seeing as it only has resilient moves, it has no form of speed control. 20% armor is okay. It's got okay bulk. Digging is good on it. Is really good on it. Stunning Strike is a pretty good tool. Resilient Impact and Resilient Strike, although it would probably do better with Superiority Strike to give it that speed control. Giraffe Titan, it's a worse Brachie. It's got the swap and slow, so you could use that more to your much more often. That's pretty good. That's actually really good for it. Bellow's okay, but again, no form of Bellow actually does give it a form of speed control as well as a swapping, but in order to, it has no form of speed control while doing damage. It needs to waste that turn to gain speed control. Also, it's got a good turn one, better than Brachie. That's its main advantage. It's got that rampage, which is pretty good. Although it just doesn't have, it's slower than Brachie by quite a bit, and also it just lacks the really defensives that Brachie has. Gorgosaurus. Maybe Gorgosaurus should go up. Here's the boost spread for Gorgosaurus. 142 speed, pretty much all attack. It's your classic one. It's the same thing with Rex. Why? It's got deceleration immunity. You set out with Ferocious Strike, and then you're hitting something hard with that impact. It is an absolute terror in rare tournaments, and I am not looking forward to fighting one in these tournaments today. But after that, Cunnings are gonna hurt it. It's still just a chomper. That's really all it is. Nothing that amazing, but nothing to really underestimate either. Especially in a non-hybrid environment. It's really good. Gorgosuchus. Group Ferocity is just a really, really bad move. But it's got Cleansing Impact, which is pretty decent. But it just lacks the output to really make it such a setup creature. Also, you could easily just stun it and it loses Ferocity. It needs something else other than Group Ferocity in PvP. Like, if it was a revenge move and it gave it, an extra turn or two, that would be really helpful for Gorgosuchus, as well as, Postimetrodon. Who actually should really be in this tier. I'm gonna, again, like Gamma, I'm gonna say Postimetrodon needs to move up. It's got the same 1-2 output as Gorgosuchus. It lacks Cleansing Impact, which is pretty big, but it also has resistances, more of them, while Gorgosuchus has just more of a setup. That buff really did help it. They're about equal with each other now, and I think that Postimetrodon should definitely move up. So that's my 2 cents on Postimetrodon. Griposuchus, I think it's borderline low alpha, maybe beta. Actually, seeing as something like Dilophosaurus is down here. Yeah, I know. I think Griposuchus needs to drop. It's got good speed, good trapping abilities. It's got good output, but it's slow. Immobilize is pretty okay on it. It does help it stall for another Ferocious Strike, but all it can do is just Ferocious Strike and strike for output. That's really all it can do. It's not amazing. I do feel like people underestimate it, but I feel like it's also a bit too high on this list. Kalenkin, basically worse Ornith. Weak to distraction, weak to stuns, weak to... it is not weak to bleed, which is pretty good, but it's weak to distraction, stun, and pin as well. Pin is a really bad one for something that wants to swap. Evasive Strike, not the best move. Raking Claws is okay, but compared to Ornith, which has better resistances, synergy, and a better get off me than Sidestep, I would say. It's a much safer get off me, actually. Kalenkin is just a tier below. It's just not as good. Cooler Brigania. It's just, It's an creature. No one really cares about it. It's got good bulk and decent... No, the output is okay. But, it's not doing much on the field. It's not, really wowing anything. It's not making a big impact, or it's not got our niche at all. It just is, again, it's just a useless legendary in a way. There's nothing that it can do that it, something else can already do. It's just an outclassed creature. Megalogaia. Megalogaia is pretty... It's good. I would say that it does lack a way... it just focuses too much on deceleration. That's it. It's really, really good at slowing things down and taking cunning hits, but I mean, that's really all it's doing. It's not doing anything special other than just slowing. Like, if it had another thing it could do, like if it could stun, or if it could bypass armor, or if it could do something along those lines, then it would definitely be better than it already is now. But it's just doing one thing, and it's already doing it so well, but it's going overboard. It's just going way overboard than what it needs to do. Packy, I would say Packy's more akin to Stygimoloch. But it's somewhat fast. 120, it's like around like 122, right? It's somewhat fast. It's got decent turn 1. It's actually, that turn 1 is pretty good for it. But the Rampage and Run is also pretty good. Although, if it swaps in, it's kind of trapped and it can't use that Rampage and Run. And it does have shielding. It just, you know what, it's actually pretty good. It's good, but compared to like the other creatures up here, like Ornith, who has like the resistances and immunities, and also the just the raw output for running away. I mean, Packy's good, but it's just there are better options. Paramoloch, it's okay. I mean, again, it's kind of more for raids. Like, it's got the group shield, the cleansing strike, the heal, and instant charge. Like, no real multipliers, no real like gimmick or anything like that. It's just more like raid and stally, and it just dies. It's better. It's a better raid creature than a lot of raid creatures, but it's still not the most amazing thing. Edaphosaurus. Worst Ornith, 100%. It's much slower, lacks stun immunity and pin immunity, which is pretty bad. The nullifying counter is really good, actually, on it. I would say that counter is pretty good. But and distracting rampage is okay. Cunning strike is okay, but it just isn't. It's just slow. The turn 1 is not the best, and it really struggles. And like these tanky creatures, the Phlox are just doing its job better. And it's just being outclassed again. So many of these creatures like are not bad. It's just that there are so many more creatures being introduced that just push them down because they're just better at what they're doing. Taurus, again, another counterattacker, but it lost that lost a grit of the greater ending counter. That really hurt it. Also losing long protection was pretty bad. Also, I would say losing Precise Rampage kind of hurt it as well. Cleansing Strike, pretty good. Into Distraction, pretty good. It's good, but again, it could be better. It's just another case of like, it's just an average. It's just average. Boosted, you're going to want to obviously do like HP, all HP to optimize that counter, but there are just better creatures to boost than Taurus. Allosaurus. It's bulky, and it does a lot of damage, but that, again, loss of speed control. That resilient change really screwed it, because now it's not slowing anything down. It's got deceleration immunity, which is good, but now it's just, it can't slow things, and that's a really big problem, because now things like Ornith can just hit it and run every single time. And there's nothing it can do about it. It's just going to be slower. But it's, when it comes to doing raw output, Allosaurus is going to do well. Pyroraptor. It's a good raptor, although honestly I would say that it's probably not. I would actually say that blue is better, but because Pyroraptor just lacks any sort of resistances. It does get over that 3,000 HP threshold, which is good. Instant Distraction is a good get off me. But it lacks like ways around like cunning effects, like precision. It lacks things around cunning strike is pretty good, but like pounds, it's also pretty good. But it can't bypass evasion. It can't do what a raptor kind of wants to do, which is deal with a lot of the other cunnings as well as fears. Scorpios Rex Gen2, I think this should also be bumped up. I'm seeing IDGT use this a lot in his videos, like the epic one, and I think that this thing is way better than what it's getting right now. That distracting quill impact, that's pretty good. It's a pretty good move, plus it's got good synergy, so it could just come in, stun, revenge kill, like pick something off with an impact and just run away with that strike and run. It's an interesting Scorpios Rex. It's just really it's really interesting, and it could be, obviously it could be better, like if you give it the critical ambush on the swap, but it's really good at like being a cunning creature. Also, again, like it's got a better revenge option with a defense shattering impact. Probably actually the best option out of all three of them for revenge killing, because I mean, obviously you can use toxic quills with Scorpios Gen3, but I feel like that's kind of a waste. Like here you can use a defense shattering impact, and now you have the option of using your quills or running away. I think it should be a bumped up one, but that's me. I'm gonna probably bring that up. Sinoceratops, sorry. Sinoceratops I use in PvP, and I'm going to say it right here. I think out of my 4 non-hybrids of Concavenator, Sinoceratops, Baryonyx, and Stygimolex, spoiler alert, I think Sinoceratops is easily my best one. Why? Because it's a swapper. I put like 1800 attack on that thing. That's really good with a resilient strike plus instant charge. Dig in does a lot. I do 109 speed to outspeed those rhinos, because most rhinos just sit at 108. One of the best swap-ins in the game. It's got access to dig in, which is really good compared to rhino. Rhino's better. I'm going to say it. Rhino, I mean, yeah, I don't need to like explain why. Rhino is just better, but the Sinoceratops has some niche roles over it. Like, I think it's better at dealing with like Arctodus and Rhino. So, but that's me. And from my experience, I really like it a lot. Spinosaurus 1 and 2, they're pretty much the same. Spinosaurus 1 is more fierce oriented, while Spino Gen 2 has the cleansing options. But they're here to essentially take down something and go down with it. Bleed, no escape. Just it's essentially like the if I'm going down, you're coming with me creature. Stegoceratops. Slower than Andrewsarchus, but it has speed control, and I think that Stegoceratops is. Originally, I would have said that Andrewsarchus is probably better than Stegoceratops, although Stegoceratops did have some niche use over Andrewsarchus. I use them both in the epic rare hybrid tournaments, but now I think Stegoceratops is going to be the better one because it has that speed control, which is important. Dig in again is really good. It's bulkier. Swap and Stunning Strike again, best swap and move in the game in my opinion. It could use some damage or a bit more bulk, but it's still not bad. Stygimolex. Stygimolex is with Stygimolex you really want to pick off something, because it does a lot of damage. It's really fast, instant charge, impact and run. It's pretty good, but it still needs, like, it has, if you're immune to stun, or if you are really bulky, Stygimolex isn't doing anything to you. It's a resilient that's really good against fierce as well, like fierce chompers like Rex and Allosaurus, but it's still really vulnerable to them because it's really frail. So while it is good with swappers, it is also vulnerable to swappers. And I use it, and it's easily the weakest link on my team. So, but it's still not a bad epic. There are definitely worse epics out there. Trudon's okay. The speed is pretty good. I will say that. Also, the back-to-back rampages, pounds rampage, not bad. I like that a lot. The distraction immunity is also pretty good, but that's really where the things about Trudon stop. It just has, it doesn't have a way around evasion. It's alright. It's, again, I would probably use Pyroraptor, who's, well, actually, no, maybe not Pyroraptor. Because Pyroraptor does, Pyroraptor does have the 3000 turn 1. I would definitely use Dakotaraptor over both of these two. Because it's got precision, it has sidestep to gain better speed control. Troodon is just always, it has, oh, Troodon, that's right, it has no get off me. That's a big issue. So that's my issues with Troodon, but it's still not a bad epic, I would say. Finally, we have Rex. Rex, you're just going 140, like Gorgosaurus, you're going 142, and then you're boosting mostly damage, maybe some HP. But you're going almost all in on speed with Rex, because it is slow as hell. You need to get that thing to really start out speeding things. And again, no resistances really screw it. The fact that it's just only fierce, it can't cleanse distraction, really hurts it. No get off me, nothing like that. That's a big problem for Rex, but Rex just does one thing, and that's hit hard, and it does it pretty decently. There are definitely, I would say, like Acro or Allosaurus are better, but Rex is still not bad.